Say suicide affects 115 people, but I can tell you that you can't quantify someone's life on a number, right? So the impact has skyrocketed. So one life, and we started LIVIN. And the reason, a big part of the motivation behind that was at Dwayne's wake, we made shirts for him and it had his face on it with a message that he loved out of a song by Gerardo. And we sold the shirts to help fund the family so they could pay for the funeral. And his parents looked at Casey and myself. So Casey's my partner in it. We both started it in 2013. And they said, here, you keep the money, just do something good with it. And we're like, well, I was still struggling. I'm sure a lot of people were struggling at this stage, going through the depressive, talking about losing a friend, and the drinking that comes with it. And we started LIVIN. Dwayne always used to say, we're living, man, we're living. He was living the life to the fullest all the time, like I was, like we all probably do.
Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Coffee and a Good Vibe. So today, it's a special one because I don't have one guest, I have two guests. I have a power couple. I have Sam Webb and Nadia Mejia. So thank you guys so much for joining and coming down here. I'm honored.
Oh, thank you for having us. We're excited.
Yeah, we're excited to have a chat with you today. Thanks for having us on here.
I'm the coffee lover and he's the good vibe, so we're here.
I'm the good vibe. Not a good vibe. I'm the good vibe.
They're both like all the good vibes, so I'm pumped because whenever we have a couple, like it's like you guys are getting like double an episode because you guys both have such insane stories and journeys and projects, and I'm like so excited to go full circle, dive into each of you, and then bring it all together. And I feel like the audience is gonna want to hear how you guys have just such an abundant relationship. So.
Yeah. Do it.
I'm excited. Let's talk about everything. No mirrors, no smoking mirrors here.
I love it. They're like open books. That's exactly like me. And let's start there. I feel like the people might want to know where you're from, what are your stories. Well, I guess we'll do one at a time because Sam, the accent, give it to him.
Okay, so my background is I'm from Australia. I've born and bred in Australia, Sydney, Australia, and I've made the move to the US today. In 2018, I made the move over. I met this beauty.
19.
No, it was 18.
It was 2019.
Was it?
You moved here.
Okay, sorry, 2019. Okay, last year was a time warp with COVID and everything else.
Yes.
But I met this beauty in Bondi Beach, actually, at a time when I least expected finding a relationship. I was at the best time of my life, and I'd already made the plan to move to the US to pursue my acting career and to try and spread the LIVIN message, which I'm sure we'll chat further about. But met Nadia in the crossroads, so to speak, through a best friend of mine back in Australia, and it's just like all these stars just kept aligning. I was like, I'm all in.
Wow.
That's a long story short, but I moved over in 2019 to the States, and trying to make a life and a career here with Nads.
I love that.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to unravel that.
That was like, that was hard to put in a box.
I didn't want to keep going.
That was a really good, guys, he's a podcaster if you don't know, so he knows how to like wrap the story.
Yeah, I'll give you a 360.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
Nads, let me hear.
Yes.
So what brought you to Australia?
Okay, so born in West Virginia, then when I was like 1.5, moved to California, which is why I say I was like born and raised in California.
You're like a Cali girl.
Yeah, I'm a 909 kid, so like Inland Empire, Chino Hills. Gosh, be quiet. Okay, so I grew up here, and I've been a model since I was 15, and I oddly ended up going to Australia in 2019. I was in one of those things of like, dating LA is hard. I felt stagnant in my career. I just needed to figure out what's my next step. And my agent was like, you should go to Australia. And I was like, Australia?
Wow.
Like Liam Hemsworth? Australia? I was like, do they all look like that? Okay, I'm going. And I went for my career. I ended up going with one of my roommates. And on my second day there, one of my friends who I had met here, who was Australian, wasn't Australia. He's like, I'm going to bring my best friend to dinner. And I was like, okay, sounds good. I'll bring my roommate. And the best friend was this guy.
What?
And when we met, it was wild. I don't know. It felt like storybook. I know it sounds so cheesy and so weird. But no, but it did. It was just someone who wasn't like, so what do you do? But like, they were like, how are you? Was it
That's so, especially from coming from LA.
Yeah.
Like, when I moved from Canada to LA, that was like what I felt. Everyone always leads with that.
Yeah, it's not a leading question.
It's like they size you up based on what you're doing and stuff.
It's like, where can you get me? And how can you help me here? Versus like, so how are you? So like, what brought you here? There was just like a depth of conversation where I was like, wow, I don't know if it's just the culture like in Australia or what it was, but it just felt different and right. And 2 years later, here we are. He's in California, and when I met him, he was moving from Australia to California like within that month.
Yeah,
I was gonna ask. That's like so perfect.
Yeah, he was
like you didn't just like fall in love. It was like, and then be like, oh my god, distance. No, it was like, oh, and actually, it's meant to be.
It was so weird. Like it was so weird. It was like I'd already had my flight booked, and I'm like, I used to struggle with commitment, and I was like, well, I'm just gonna commit, and hopefully she'll commit, and then we'll just see where it goes.
Yeah. Oh, and look where we are now, 2 years later.
Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah.
This is like, I feel like everyone listening is like, that's like my fairy tale story that they want to happen, and it will happen for everyone. I totally believe that, but it's about like you guys are so aligned, and like going into you guys individually. I don't know who wants to go first, but I would love to tap into the projects that you guys are both doing, because one of the things that really draws me to both of you guys is your why behind both of your stories is so strong. And I always say, like, we were talking about energy, like the energy is so abundant when you have a strong why behind what you're doing. It like drives you. So Nads, I know like you were in the modeling industry, you did pageants, you were Miss California.
Yeah.
Like, was that always from a young age? Because you were in modeling, like what inspired you at a young age to get into the modeling scene?
So my mom was a model and a pageant girl. So like, for me, like I just wanted to follow in my mom's footsteps from like a young age. In our living room, like on our mantle would be like the crown, like the Miss West Virginia sash and like all this stuff. And I was like, oh, mom was like a real life princess.
That's
I want to be
amazing.
one too. So I started doing pageants when I was 14 was my first pageant. And I really enjoyed them. They kind of like gave me a little outlet to modeling. Then I got scouted by an agency at like just turning 16, and I made it my full-time career. So I've been full-time model since then. And then when I had to take a break from modeling because I got really sick. In that industry, it is constantly about the way you look, your size, what you weigh on a scale, and that got to me. My family moved away when I was 17. They moved to Kentucky.
Wow.
They were kind of like, we're getting out of California. Like, this has just been a great life, but like, small town, let's go. So I was like, I'm going to stay here for my career. Well, in that time, you know, I was easily influenced. I was 17, like on my own, living in a model's apartment. And I don't know, I found my worth and my validity for some reason in the way that I looked, because that was my career. That's what I was working hard for. And I'd go into my agents and be like, oh, you look great, but like, you could be a little smaller, you can get a little tighter there. And that really got to me. And I was like, okay, well, if I'm going to do this full time, I got to make it like happen. And I got really sick. I went from 135 pounds, I'm 5'11", to 102 in the matter of like 3 months. Yeah, and it was just starving myself, full-blown anorexic, never bulimic, but just counting calories obsessively. And in my healing process, I went back home to my family like a year and a half later. And as I was recovering, I was like, I enjoy modeling, don't get me wrong, but I need to have more purpose for my career. Like I felt like just like, out now, I'm very faith driven, and I always feel like God had more purpose for my life than to just be a pretty face, you know? And as I was healing, my mom was like, okay, well, you know, as you were going back to California, you want to do that, like maybe pageants would be a good thing for you, because pageants, yeah, there's the beauty, the glitz and the glam, but there's also you have to share your story and your heart and have a platform. And it was like, you speaking mattered. So I ended up competing for Miss California and sharing my story of anorexia. My interview, they were like, why do you want to be Miss California? And I was like, well, I'm a recovering anorexic, not recovered. I didn't want to say it like it was finished, because this is something I battle every day, but I'm recovering, and this is going to be a great way for me to get better and to use my story and make sure young girls are skipping like lunch at school, and to know their worth isn't in a number on a scale. And I won, and I made that like my career for a year of going and speaking at schools to young women about loving the skin that they're in. And in that process, it helped me so much heal, because I didn't want to be a hypocrite to my testimony and like not, you know, really back what I was speaking. And I really did heal a lot that year. And now I'm a model with a message. Years later, I'm 25 now. That was 5 years ago. And I know that there's still more purpose for my life than just to be that pretty face. And now everything I do is about body image, about speaking out about what I went through, and working with brands that align with what I, really strive to be. And it's not just a size 0.
I love that. That's so powerful and beautiful, and it takes so much courage and vulnerability to also share that, because like you said, you're going through it, and I think that also is what makes it so inspiring. Is like, hey guys, like I'm not a finished product, but I see you because I understand the pain that you're going through, and I feel like that's how you can also impact more people, because they're like, oh, she's not talking to me like a therapist or like someone who is just telling me to go through it, but she's been through it and understands. And I would love to know, like, what, for anyone listening, because especially in this age we live in right now, and we'll get into like the modeling and the influencer scene, but I know even though it's like there's modeling, and I know in that time like modeling was the only kind of like way, which like you have an agent, but now there's like social media, and everyone's kind of like their own, like you have your own like book essentially of like your photos, and it's just, I see it so much with younger kids. They're on social, they're on TikTok, and it's all like body stuff, and it's crazy like what they grow up with. Like we're not much older, but still it's like completely different.
So different.
And like I would love to hear any like piece of advice or anything, maybe even that you stick within your head, to anyone who, even if like they're not going through that specifically, I feel like as females, we all are our own toughest critics, and we all will feel like those emotions or those feelings come up. Like we're all human. Like, do you have anything that you tell yourself even to this day that like really helps you just feel so comfortable with the skin you're in and like love yourself?
Absolutely. I think just in this day and age and society, especially for young women scrolling through Instagram, comparison is the thief of joy, and I live by that. It is just the one thing that if you're sitting there and wishing your life was this, first of all, Instagram can be a facade to anyone. You don't really know what you're looking at. Like, you don't know if that person's life is perfect all because their body's perfect. Is it Facetune? Is it real life? Like, you cannot compare your life to what you see on that. You have to own the skin you're in, love yourself for who you are, put out what, honest and real content to the world, and not try to, fit into whatever, you think is cool at that time. Like, being authentically yourself is so important in this day and age. And I think, it's still a struggle for me. I go through social media and I sit there and I'm like, oh my God.
Especially with like the metrics. I'm just like, I don't need to see that. Like, you feel like the content means something, but then with Instagram, it's like, apparently Instagram only rewards content that is like this look.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is a crazy thing for me, especially, because I can be a little bit sexier on my Instagram and not too sexy. I'm like, my dad follows my Instagram, and anything my dad would approve of, don't post. You make sure your dad's okay with it. So, but those photos, whether it's in a bikini or stuff, are always validated. It's always the 12,000, 13,000 likes on that. But then I'm like sitting there like, okay, like today was a bad day, and I'm smiling, and I'm like writing this big caption, and you just get like 2,000, 3,000 likes because it wasn't in the algorithm, because it wasn't what Instagram wanted to see. That's something I will say, even if you're in the influencer world, you please don't base your Instagram off of the amount of likes you're going to get. Do content that means something to you.
They stop the Why? I don't see likes on my phone.
I think it's a double-edged sword. You just got to be in acceptance, I guess, of yourself. It's really hard.
Absolutely. And it's something everyone's going to battle every day. Like, it's not something that will get easier. But you wake up with those positive affirmations. I am worthy. I am beautiful. For me, it's my worth is not based on a number on a scale. My worth is not based on what size pant I fit in that day. Like, I am beautiful as I am. God made me as I am, and I need to own that and live that and breathe that. And when I really manifest that in my life, there's so much peace.
But then there are days though where, and I can say this because I live with Nadia.
Of course.
But there are days where you don't see that, and then I have to remind you, like, why you're doing what you're doing. What's the purpose of this? Is there a reason behind why you're feeling a bit flat? And we can all have these great values, and we can wake up and love our skin we're in, feel positive, confident. But at the end of the day, no one's invincible, and we go through vulnerable moments where we think we're the piece of shit of the earth and that we're never going to be good enough, or there's always going to be someone better out there than us. And it's just how you look at it.
Yeah.
It's the way you change your perspectives on that, I feel,
Yeah.
is really important, because we'll all have bad times and we'll all have really good times.
Yeah.
And you can stick by the strong values. Like you've got great ones on your wall right here.
That helps. Definitely helps.
They help
days
and
happen.
remind you, but there are times where you don't feel good enough.
Yeah.
And you don't feel powerful, and you don't feel loved, you don't feel confident. So it's about accepting that that's sometimes okay to feel like that. That's how I look at it.
And there is importance in having a partner that would uplift you and be able to understand. I don't think he'll ever understand my brain fully, but someone who works in mental health, which you guys will, hear about soon, having someone who can just go take a step back and like see that I'm having a bad day, see me grabbing myself in the mirror, crying or saying I feel fat, I feel ugly, I feel this, I feel that. Having someone who can come up to you and be like, I don't know exactly what you're going through, but let's talk about it. Like, I just want to talk with you. I want to remind you, you are this, you are that, you don't have to compare yourself to this. That importance in a significant other is something I never could have imagined for myself, because I always thought I was going to go through this alone. Like, it was always just this internal battle. I had God, but I didn't think I'd be able to lean on him, and to be able to have someone that is so uplifting and supportive is, really something that people need to look for. It's not about a blue check mark or what they do in life, or it is someone who understands you and is there for you and pushes you to be better. And I really can say that Sam has been such a light in my life for the reasons of, struggling on my own, but just to, have that support system.
I think that's everything. And it's in a partner with the content you consume, it's so important that our inputs are the most supportive and sacred thing. And I think that's such a perfect segue to for Sam's story and what you're doing with LIVIN. And I would love for you to give the story behind the emergence of it and everything you're doing with the platform.
I definitely can. I can. And I'm honest, and I think it's important to understand you have to be honest sometimes. You have to be honest all the time, especially when you're not feeling right. I think for LIVIN, when LIVIN first started in 2013, it was in a year of, I was spiraling out of control. My mental health was copying a beating. I wasn't feeling too good. There was times in my life where I was probably, not that I'd ever probably act on it, I was suicidal at certain stages in my life. I was taking drugs, I was drinking excessively, I was spending time with people that weren't the best reflection of who I wanted to be. And they say you do become the people you spend most of your time with. So it's important to have a really good circle. Something that I've learned, something that I probably value now more than ever, is the people and the things you consume. Media, people, food, all that stuff, which we'll talk about. But September 15, 2013 will be a night I'll never forget, for a number of reasons, but for the most important reason was I had a very one-on-one conversation with a close friend of mine at a party, and I knew a little bit about mental health, mental illness, having grown up in a family that had it affected us in more ways than one. I still didn't quite understand it in a way where I could talk about it really openly, because there's a lot of stigma that's associated with mental illness and health challenges. And my friend Dwayne opened up to me at a party on September 15, 2013 and told me about his struggles with bipolar disorder. And he told me out of nowhere, we had a one-on-one conversation. I remember it like it was yesterday. And he told me that I've tried to take my life twice before, and I just didn't see where that was coming from. I had no idea that he'd ever been in that situation before, because to paint the story, this guy is very charismatic, very, happy-go-lucky guy, life of the party, 25, young guys, had some of the prime of our lives. We had the best chats, best conversations. He had an amazing partner, a beautiful family that was extremely well connected, and they were all one. It wasn't like Dwayne went through, family breakups or divorce, and he came from a disconnected household. It was all very well put together. So from the outside looking in, he seemed like he had it all, but behind closed doors, he hid his pain extremely well because of the shame and the pride that he was giving up, and I guess at the expense of himself, right? So he told me his life, was all on a good path right now. He did try to take his life a couple of times, but he promised me, looked me in the eye and said, everything's good, my future looks bright and promising, and I know that I'd reach out to people like yourself, Sam, if I was struggling, and you know, he reassured me that, I reassured him. I was open and honest about my own challenges, about, you know, how I was feeling and the challenges that I've been through in my life. And I remember him, you know, looking at me and, you know, some of the last things he said was, "Don't worry, Sam, I'm fine." And that was the last conversation that I had with him that night. And moments later, Dwayne opened up and had some altercation or an argument at the party, and unbeknown at the time, he took off from the party, and I didn't know that was the last time that I was going to see my good friend in living form. And Dwayne ended up taking his life that evening, not long after we spoke, and the impact that had directly on family and close friends changed people's lives forever. It wasn't a momentary, moment thing where it was changing in a year. It's forever. They say suicide affects 115 people, but I can tell you that you can't quantify someone's life on a number, right? So the impact has skyrocketed. So one life, and we started living. And the reason, a big part of the motivation behind that was at Dwayne's wake, we made shirts for him and had his face on it with a message that he loved out of a song by Xavier Rudd. And we sold the shirts to help fund the family so they could pay for the funeral. And his parents looked at Casey and myself. So Casey's my partner in it. We both started it in 2013. And they said, "Here, you keep the money, just do something good with it." And we're like, well, I was still struggling. I'm sure a lot of people were struggling at this stage, going through the depressive, talking about losing a friend and the drinking that comes with it. And we started living. Dwayne always used to say, we're living, man, we're living. He was living a life to the fullest all the time, like I was, like we all probably do. And we started living with t-shirts and friends were supporting it. The word got out and it just went from this little passion project in our garage and just blew up out of nowhere. And
love that.
One thing led to the next. And then one of the biggest turning points for us was, what would we have wanted at a young age that may have saved Dwayne's life? And it was education. I didn't have, when I grew up at a young age, someone telling me what mental illness was like, what it felt like how could you look after a friend? Like, Aisha, if you were struggling right now, this is what I'd probably help say, or these are the people you could go to see if you were struggling, without burying it and just living in pain. Because a lot of people who are listening right now are probably doing the same thing. They're not living, they're just surviving, and there's nothing positive comes from just getting by every day. And we developed a program and we started speaking in schools right over Australia, and then we had Chris Hemsworth wear our merch, and then it blew up, and then just one thing led to the next, and then we started a podcast called It Ain't Weak to Speak, and I'm the host of that, and it's just really about creating hope for people that don't see hope, giving people a reason to live, because a lot of people that don't find purpose in their life to live, and we just want to create that for them through a really simple message of living.
That's beautiful.
Every time I hear that story,
I'm like, that is insane.
I get welled up, it's awesome.
I love that story, and it's so, like, this brand and what you're doing, there's such a need for it, and I think it's just such a pure representation with how it's scaling and evolving with the podcast and the program and speaking. It's like, that's showing you, like, there's such a demand, and this is such a conversation that needs to be had. I know with speaking, you even did a TEDx talk.
Yeah.
How was that? What was that experience? Like, what was the talk on?
It was tough because, and Nads was there.
The audience.
We're in New York City, living the dream, and I've done a lot of, and before I even started, LIVIN wouldn't be where it is today without the people that support us, and the people who have obviously gone through their own pain, and the people who have probably lost their lives, and the people that's affected, and LIVIN wouldn't exist without the support that we get. So I have to thank everyone for the support, because we wouldn't be able to do what we do. Long story short, to the TEDx talk.
Was it in LA?
It was in New York.
Oh, wow.
Columbus Circle. I was like, is this real?
Yeah,
this was like 2 months into us dating. Side note before you get it.
Wow.
After that, I was like watching. I was like, oh, I'm married. It is on.
It was hard, and I've done a lot of speaking engagements in my life, and big crowds, huge crowds, and intimidating crowds. But I think the pressure I put on myself because of what TEDx and TED and all that means. I was like, I need to nail this. Small crowd, only like 85, 90 people.
Well, then it goes on YouTube.
And then I was like, but it was a great experience. And the topic I spoke on was I'm fine, which was the last 2 words I heard from my friend Dwayne before he took his life. I'm fine breaking the burden of masculinity, which is what I spoke about.
Powerful.
Yeah. So it's a forever evolving thing. Great experience, good feedback. Obviously, just grateful to be able to get that opportunity, but there are so many great people doing great things in the world, and we're just trying to add to that, and that's all we're doing. We're just doing the best we can.
You're doing a good job at that, though.
Good support. NADS has been a great support network, my family and everyone else. So I'm grateful to be over here doing it too.
It's so powerful, and you guys both have such strong. It's just such a anyone listening and watching. It just makes sense. You guys both are such heart-centered entrepreneurs and leaders, and your why is not just I want to reach more people. It's such a strong why that makes you cry, essentially.
It's a connection of what we've gone through.
Yeah.
I think we just finally learned there's no need to be ashamed of stories. And I'll tell any listener of that, anything you've gone through can help someone so much when you not even realizing it. You could think you're a piece of crap for the time that you did starve yourself or you did hurt yourself or that you can't come see the light at the end of the tunnel when your friend did take their life. But look what you can do with just that story that can fuel your fire to go, I want no one else to feel the way that I felt in that darkest moment. And when you turn your pain into a light, it's a game changer. It just puts purpose into your life. It's hard.
It's hard for someone to sit there and I had this conversation long ago on a podcast. It's how can you, why are so many stories in people's turning points in life from something of pain?
Yeah.
And it's generally when we're faced with big obstacles that we're trying to dig deep. It's either make or break, and it's because that's just where we're pushed to as human beings. But how often do you hear someone that's just made something great out of already being great? It's you don't hear it as often. And I think everyone's got a wonderful story that needs to be told, and everyone has their own challenges, and everyone has their own breakthroughs. It's just sticking with it and being patient and again, surrounding yourself, and I probably said this 3 or 4 times already,
it's so good.
Surrounding yourself with the right people, surrounding yourself with the right things, and I love, personally, I know Nads does, and I won't speak for you, but we love having fun. You've got to have fun. If you're not having fun doing what you're doing, there's no point doing it. You really got to have fun. Living's been hard. There has been so many challenges.
You're starting any business. Yeah, especially in LA.
Oh, it's so hard. And you'd know the same thing with what you're working on, and nothing's easy, and it's challenging, but you've got to have fun. You got to find the time to smile and laugh and not take it too seriously, because when you start taking it too seriously, it's just
it doesn't scale. Especially, I resonate with that so much. Just being a young entrepreneur, we want to do all the things, and we live in this society when it's you're constantly seeing other people's highlight reels, and you think you should be there when you gotta honor the now and enjoy it, because you're gonna get there faster and you're gonna love the process doing it too. And I think that's so powerful, and I would love to hear, because you guys are both such energized, filled cups, always just I feel with the projects you guys have going on, you need to, I always say you have to fill up your own cup, and you have to come from that space in order to over pour onto other people, whether that's with modeling, and I see you on set, with everything, you have so much energy you bring on to everyone, so much light, and Sam, with everything you're doing with LIVIN, there's so many areas where you need to always show up for others and be a leader to your team. So how do you guys do it, even individually and as a couple, your morning routines, things that you guys do that make you the people that you are, that fuel you for your days?
As we keep going around this, we surround ourselves around really good people, whether it's our family, our friends, they uplift us. Our morning routine, I will say, at first for me, faith has always been a huge part of my life, and we made prayer a very big part of our routine. We read our Bible in the morning, kind of sets us up for a great day.
For the most part, some mornings where we miss it, but...
Oh my God, you backfire on everything I was saying. I'm trying to just Okay, sorry, 5 days a week we read the Bible. And it really sets us up for a very positive morning. Just going, okay, we're going to be lights today, pray together, do our own thing. What personally for you do you feel like gives you that light?
Yeah, I think, and that's been something Nads has introduced me to since we obviously met, and it's been a great thing for me. I'm still trying to find peace in my life. Obviously, it's not all happy days, right? It's always challenging, but exercise for me has always been number one priority. Obviously, surrounding yourself with the right people I learned, because I know how dark my life got when I didn't have that great support. I didn't have the people that were open and vulnerable, and therefore I couldn't be open and vulnerable. So I like surrounding myself with people that are very like-minded, very, very important, but also prioritising self-care. So I often look at self-care, right, as and think of your to-do list for the day. Self-care for me is always at the top, and that isn't being selfish at all. The way I look at that is, if I'm not ticking self-care off the top of my list first, I'm not going to be that good for the rest of the people. So I wouldn't be able to give Aisha what she wants for a podcast. I wouldn't be able to help Nadia around the house just because I get in a not bad mood. It just doesn't. I'm better for other people when I'm the best for myself.
Yeah.
And I'm actually going at a disservice to others if I'm not looking after Sam. And I know that now because I've been through the ringer. I've had bad times, I've had great times, and I know it works for me. Self-care is number one care for me, and that could be exercise, reading the Bible, speaking to Nads, going for a walk, or having a nice little juice or food or something in the morning that fuels my body.
Yeah.
Yeah. But everyone's different. My self-care might be very different to ours is very similar, but it might be different to yours. Like you might have self-care like going for a run or something, and I might like boxing, and you might read and do meditation. I might not like meditation. I might do something that works for me, because we're all different, and it's about finding that right fit. But not doing something because you've listened to a podcast and a psychologist or a friend has gone, why don't you go start running, or why don't you go and eat 2 juices a week, or why don't you plank for an hour in the morning, or whatever it is. Don't just do it because someone else tells you to do it. It sounds good. Do it because you enjoy it. If you're not getting joy from it, again, same as work and a relationship, there's no point doing it. It's just a waste.
I love that you said that, because I think that's what turns people off from these morning routines, or these because there's these people who are like, you have to wake up at 4 a.m. You have to have this amount of water, this amount, and it's like you don't, and then you just make people not even want to have a morning routine or make one because they think that's the only way.
It's not
too hard.
It's always about choosing what's best for you.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's not like it's not like, and Nadia, you'll agree with me when I say this, it's not like we're not all improving linearly. I can't pronounce it. But we're all on our own journey, so you can't compare your shit, if I'm sorry if I'm swearing, to someone else's shit, because it's all very, very different.
Yeah.
But it's in terms of ourselves, my struggle right now, I shouldn't belittle my struggle, because in my mind I think you have gone through something worse. It's relative to Sam, so my struggle needs to be nurtured and stuff, the same way as my successes. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And it's important to really understand that, I think. And I think not a lot of people understand that. People always put other people first and do everything for everyone else, but they're the ones that are burning out at the end of the day. They're the ones that aren't really fulfilled and happy because they're doing so much for everyone else and not enough for themselves.
That was very much so me. That is something I super struggled with, is you were talking about pouring the water and stuff. I would pour my pot into everyone and it always end up empty because I was giving and giving and giving, and you can stay with me and I'll take care of you and I'll get the bill. And it was a part of my life where I was like, oh, if I show people love, I'll receive it back. And when I wouldn't get that love, it's not even love. It was these actions where I guess I wanted validity from what I was doing to go, I'm a good person. But I was a good person without having to pour so much. And I realized, oh my gosh, I have to surround myself with people who are pouring back. And that meant cutting so many friends. And that's so hard, because you're just your friend group goes from so many people, everyone who's, oh, what are you doing tonight? The ones that it's easy to oh, I've got me, myself, and I, and the few around me, but I had to take a step and go I need to love me for me and stop trying to make everyone else happy, because at the end of the day I was drained. I was tired, and I was just I need to define my peace. And when I started, more of the self-care, I saw how prominent it was in his life, I was wow, that's something I need to apply to mine. So I realized like it's okay. My feelings do come first. I don't have to get back to that message immediately to help that person. Like I need to do me to be okay for everyone else. And that would the self-care thing. I applied it in the ways that I thought it would in the beginning of just like, oh, I gotta work out. I gotta do this.
It's also one of those things which is forever in and out of sync.
Yeah.
You've always got to recalibrate that compass. Sometimes my self-care is not always the greatest.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's really, really good. It's about trying to find what you're doing and knowing and being aware about when it's going bad, when that cup's empty, I guess. And it's again, no one's perfect. I'm not perfect. I can tell you right now, I've made challenges, stuff-ups, mistakes all the time, but you just got to accept it. It's just life.
And you get better too at it. Like now you can probably tell, like, I need more Sam self-care. Like the thermometer kind of like is so much more heightened. And then I really resonate with that, Nadia, because I'm like such a people pleaser, and I think it's like also like the Canadian in me. We always want to do everything for everyone. And when I moved out here, I was like a year, like still even now, I'm like, oh my God, Aisha, why don't you learn your lesson? Like, but it's so crazy that you really do need to almost be selfish, because you know like what you're doing in the world, you need to be a fulfilled cup in order to have that impact and go speak and have that energy to pour onto the people who need it. So it's so powerful. Do you guys have any mentors currently? Anything that like has really made a really big like inspiration on your life that like is a current mentor in your life? I feel like those are always we all like, I feel like mentors are such a big thing, especially with really passionate entrepreneurs.
I think, and it's a good question, it's one that I probably have been asked a couple of times, and I think people have mentors and mentors, however I say it. And I think for me personally, again, we're all very different. My mentors are people I meet. And why I say that is because I'm a very inquisitive, curious person. I like to give as much as I can, but I'm also open to asking questions and taking what could work in my life from their wisdoms. I feel like everyone's got wisdom and learnings in their life that could be applied to your own in some way, shape or form. It's just about being able to find what that is. So for me, I don't look to one person and go, they're my mentor, or I don't have a call with one person every 2 days because they're my sounding board. I actually, and my mentors are people and the things that I learn from. If I'm not making mistakes or getting challenges in my life, I'm not learning, and if I'm not learning, I don't actually have a mentor. Does that make sense?
No, totally.
So people, everyone, strangers in the street, people I meet at parties.
Everyone's a teacher. Everyone's a teacher.
And
everyone.
You're a student of life.
My mantra, my personal mantra is I'm a student of life. And that might sound a bit, but that's just the way I live my life. So.
No, I fully agree with that. I side with that big time. But also, I mean, mentor for me, my parents have been such an incredible just like guidance in my life. When my mom is like my best friend, and my dad really is, my dad's a pastor, so he's very much so like with his faith. If he can see on Instagram I'm looking a little leaner, or is he a little ribby or a little something, he's the first person to call me back. Okay, baby.
My dad does that too.
Let's talk about it. How are you? And to lean on my parents is such an amazing thing, because they really have molded me into the woman I am today. And to have that, I can easily pick up the phone and call them. Now they're not my like, Mom, I need you to do this. I don't like lean on them like that. Like I said, you do learn from all of those people around you, but to have such awesome, just like role models in your life. I will always say my role model ain't anyone but mommy and daddy. I am such like a little baby to this day, but it's just because they really they poured my pot from the day I was born. They're still pouring. Every time I felt a bit empty, they've always been there to fill my pot, and that's been so important.
It's so beautiful, because I really resonate with that too, just because I feel like they're my best friend.
Yeah, exactly.
And like they're nothing but unconditional love,
Yeah.
I have to ask. So I know we kind of sprinkled in on this in the podcast, but I would love to hear, because I know there's a lot of people listening. Either they see this, especially after this episode, they're gonna be like, oh my God, I want that relationship for her. And I'm telling you guys, like, you can have this relationship. Like, it's everyone's birthright to have a loving relationship. But also someone who's listening who maybe they're in a relationship that's not serving them, and I want to honor them too for listening to content that really is just making them like think bigger and like grow their mind and it just like evolved them as people. So what would you say, both of you guys, like the things like non-negotiables for relationships, and even like pulling from your relationship, like why do you guys think it's so successful and abundant? Like what are the principles you think that that every relationship needs to have?
I think the most important one, if you want to go first.
You go
You
first.
always look at me to go first.
No, I just look at you because you're talking.
I think the ability to understand, but listening to understand with intent. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I feel like a really big important part of any relationship is communication. It's the most important. If you can't communicate transparently and honestly and openly and challenge someone if you don't like something that they're doing, or you're seeing them decline, or something they've done or said or have acted upon, you just don't like it, it's important to call that out as it is, say it how it is and talk about it and talk through it. I think is very important, because that alleviates, and again, I'm not a relationship therapist or a coach or a guru by any means. Again, I'm a student of life, giving my own experiences, and that has served me very well with Nadia. Something that didn't serve me well in the past.
Yeah.
And just being radically honest.
So honest. So honest.
Those
even
two,
when
you get
don't
those two
hear.
right. I feel if you can nail those two, a relationship's built off the core foundation of trust and communication. If you can get them two right, and then the other things you like you're attracted and all that stuff, great.
Yeah.
You're on the. I feel like I don't see how it maybe couldn't work. Yeah, you look for similar interests, and if they like what you do and all that stuff. But I feel like you can have that, but if you don't have the trust and the communication, it's not going to work anyway.
Totally.
That's how I see it. Nance?
Yeah, no, I mean.
What do you? Yeah.
Anyways, back on that. Yeah, but I mean, support. Oh my God, support is such a big thing with us. Like, you don't always have to see eye to eye. You have to realize you can agree to disagree. We always disagree. We can bicker. I've been free to hit him. I'm like, be quiet.
The worst. You're the worst.
He can be a pain in the ass, and I can be a pain in the ass, but we
You
also.
are a bigger
You're
part.
so lucky. Anyways, you have to know that these are totally normal. Not everything is supposed to be picture perfect. Like, yeah, we can live like, oh, we had this fate, this story, this all, but we still have our crap. But the beauty of communication, the support, the agreeing to disagree, but also being able to understand, like listening to each other.
Yeah.
Which I was not a good listener in the beginning. I'm a talker. I'm always like, yeah, I'll tell you what I feel about that. But like, he's like the listener. He sits back and like observes, and I was like, ooh, I need to learn from that. So like listening to what we have to say and like the why behind we making this decision or doing this. If you can really come to terms of like, okay, like, but I support you for this, and we're gonna get through this, or there's just a flow. You find this flow that is just like, it just feels right. That corny feeling when you meet someone and you just go, oh, it shouldn't be hard. It should be easy.
Yeah.
But it's not always going to be easy. But it's okay. The flow and our, the feelings, like it's all just, it's gonna fall into place. But there have to be those core values of the communication, the trust, the support.
And it's that stuff sometimes. For people that are listening, for example, that might be in a relationship that's not serving them well, like you mentioned, or people that are they're ready. They might be ready to get it on. Like find a relationship, maybe for like sometimes you don't just uncover this on the first time you meet someone, obviously, but you get a pretty good vibe. Talking about good vibes, I mean, I got a good vibe when I met Nards. It was pretty good, but I didn't instantly go, oh, this could be the one forever. The first conversation. But that's just being honest, and it took time. It took time and made mistakes and listened and didn't like certain things, and then you change, you grow, and all that stuff. But I don't think, and I know, and again, talking from my own experiences, at that moment when I met Nadia, I certainly was not looking for a relationship. I was in the best time, like honestly.
I think that's what all guys say.
I was so many years properly single, and I'd come off the best times, and I loved life as I was for myself.
You're living.
I was living, and Naz was just in the crosshairs, and she got shot. And she got,
no, but it was timing, it was life. I mean, I was single for 5 years, like prior to him, like dating and like, oh my God, the non-committal land of like, I like you, but like not like a label. Like we're not changing our Facebook thing. And I was like, this is terrible. But to meet someone who wanted just like after months of getting to know each other, and that commitment was so awesome. Just because like I was so used to, and I will say like at the beginning of our relationship, I was jaded in the way of like expecting the worst to happen. Just like he was gonna ghost me. Oh my God, the amount of times ghosting has happened. I'm like, ugh, like Los Angeles, the land of ghosts. So I was just waiting for the worst to happen, but then you realize, oh no, there are great people out there. So like get out of that thing of like, oh, I'm never going to find someone here or there or here. I mean, I had to travel across the dang world.
Yeah, all the ladies after this are going to be
everyone go to Australia. But no, I mean, it's just the timing of life. And when you're ready as a person, things just flow and happen.
It's that energy, right?
Yeah.
Like you were ready, you didn't know until you were ready, right? And it's like, I feel like we have to honor that energy and not like put out the energy like we need it now. We're not complete until that person, because like you guys were both so complete in your own worlds, and it just happened. Like that's when the fit was just so aligned, and then you were moving. Like it just, I think that's like what I want everyone to like, to honor their timing too.
But also like people, like I've got friends back in Australia and friends here in LA that are single, and they may not want to be single, and they're not feeling fulfilled. What I say, even close friends back home, is like, just focus on yourself. Like, don't sit down and be desperate to find, because you're probably going to end up finding someone who's probably not the right fit.
Settling.
So you've really got to. Something that I was single for quite a while, and I just didn't want to settle for anything less than what I deserved. And when I say that is, I did so much work on myself, and I knew that, you know, the good, the bad, everyone's got weaknesses. I've got plenty of them, and I just knew my worth, and I knew what I was after, and I wasn't settling. Obviously, for something just that was mediocre, just to fill a void, because I was happy within myself. And I see friends, and I see people that have come out of relationships, and they want to get straight back in one because they don't like being on their own, or they feel like they need someone to be complete. I don't believe that. I feel like you don't need someone to be complete. People that are struggling with that, I say just do more work on yourself. Work better on yourself, do better things, challenge yourself, step out of your comfort zone, maybe go to the morning boxing class that you've never been to by yourself. You don't know who you'll meet. It might just be that situation on that day, at that time, that you meet the love of your life.
In the moment.
You know what I mean?
Working on yourself.
Or you're working on yourself, and you realise that that's why you didn't get someone when you were desperate. Because
you weren't ready for that person.
Because you just weren't ready. And then you look back, or when you're in a toxic relationship, and you go, and you're trying so hard to make it work, and I want to make it work, and it doesn't work, and all the heartache and breakthroughs and all that stuff that you went through, then you find someone that you're in a really healthy relationship with, and then you go, that's my aha moment, because it's like, that's why that relationship didn't work out, because this is the one I was supposed to be.
And
Be open to that stuff, and really appreciate that things, they do tend to happen for a reason, I believe.
Everything's your teacher. Everything happens for a reason. I always say you cannot block your blessings, but you have to be like at that, like, if it's not the right timing, like the universe, God, like it's always knows the right timing for you. And sometimes we don't know it in the moment, because we're like, I want that, but honestly, you have to trust and have faith in that. It's powerful. So many gems.
Words of wisdom.
I don't want it to end, but we're not ending yet, because I want the people to hear like what you guys are working on. I know there's so many different things individually you guys have going on. Nads, I know you just launched a line with a brand, so I want to hear the projects you guys are doing now, and then plug also the way that they can support and connect.
Okay, so what I'm wearing actually is
I love
my
the color.
collaboration with High Peach. So I didn't launch it. I have to make that clear. I did an edit with a brand. So like, as much as I want to be like, I made this, I didn't.
You should start getting into it.
Oh my God,
No, it's so cute.
So I worked with this brand that I absolutely loved, like just as a model. And we like really connected in the vibes and the energy. They were amazing. And they were like, I want you to be our brand ambassador. I was like, I want you to do whatever you want me to do. Because they were just so awesome. So I did an edit with them, and we just did a launch. Nadia.highpeach.com is my day to night edit, which was really exciting, because I think I've always just been like the chick behind the camera, just like the human mannequin. But I've never gotten to like show that creative side of like what I do and like what I like to wear and blah, blah, blah. So that was a project that I just did. But as of now, I'm not really allowed to like say much on it, but I've sang most of my life. I was singing worship from the age of 11 years old, and that's always been a passion of mine. And I've decided, 10 years later into modeling, I'm getting at that point again where I'm kind of just like, yes, I can be that model with a message, but I always say I'm a recovering alcoholic working in a bar. Like, I will never fully recover, like, with, the way I view myself and stuff until I gotta venture out of that. I don't need to be dependent on modeling anymore. Yes, I know my worth and yes, but I'm still triggered constantly. So I've decided for myself that I want to pursue music right now over the modeling. And it's hard to talk about because I'm not really allowed to talk about it, but think of like, I'm going to use my Ecuadorian side, my American side, like Despacito, but a little Spanish, a little English. It's a work in progress that once I'm able to talk more about, I'll
just gotta follow
But I'm focusing on things where I get to use my voice to make a difference, because as grateful as I am for being a model, and as grateful as I am with the career and the clients that I have at this moment in my life, I also just have to look out for me. And I think looking out for me, I've realized and have really prayed about and thought about is moving on, finding things
you wrong.
Yes, I have to follow that feeling that I don't want to feel that anymore. I finally want to do what makes Nadia happy. Yeah, modeling can make me happy some days, but like I know things that'll really make me feel whole, and I'm gonna pursue that because that's just where I feel God's leading me at this time. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, for now I'm a model.
Oh, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's great. And I'm just working on out here in LA, living the dream. Trying to spread the LIVIN message far and wide. Obviously, I'm very, very much involved in LIVIN. Obviously, our headquarters is back in Australia. Plan was to try and expand it over here, which we will definitely. Working on a couple of other little projects, but my other core passion of mine is acting. I'm pursuing that relentlessly in a hope that I can use that platform once that sort of goes off to help spread the LIVIN message and the message around mental health and suicide prevention. That's the real game plan for me. But other than that, trying to stay healthy, fit, and just enjoy my time out here, enjoy life, and start creating a life out here.
It's powerful, both of you guys, using you guys both have incredible influence and platforms, but what you're doing with it's amazing to see, because it's like using your influence for good. And even like with acting, you have a passion for it and a talent, and it's like when you land your next movie, you're gonna have even like more of a voice to share on all these topics that deserve light. And it's we live in a world too where yes, sometimes the sexy topics don't get attention off the bat, but we gotta make them mainstream, and it's beautiful when you meet people who are doing such amazing things with their platform and their voice. So just want to honor you both for that.
Thank you.
And let us know where Instagram, plug it if that's the best. Plug your podcast. I'll have everything linked in the show notes too, but verbally.
If people want to jump over and listen to the podcast, they're happy to. You'll find us on all the platforms wherever you get your podcast. It's called It Ain't Weak to Speak with Sam Webb, and you'll be able to follow LIVIN across all channels, which is LIVIN.org, LIVIN.org, or Sam Webb, SAMWEBB.
And I'm just at Nadia_Mejia, and just follow along that journey. My life, I feel like, is about to take like a turn, so
you guys gotta get on for the ride. You guys gotta follow. You gotta get that merch. I'm like obsessed. If you guys are watching the video, you're blessed with Nadia's merch.
I'll have to get you something. I'll send you something.
I'm obsessed. I actually saw, not even joking, a guy wearing that at the farmer's market, a LIVIN sweater, and I was gonna like go up to him and say something, but I was like, because it was on the back, it was a jacket, and it was your stuff, because I was looking at.
Was it Melrose?
No, it was here. It was here. If it was you guys, I would have put
it. Yeah, cool. Yeah, it's not quite as established over here, but we're growing it.
And it's really trendy, like the stuff, like it's so mainstream.
Yeah, the woman's wear is also super cute, but the sweatsuits are what I live for. It's just like It Ain't Weak to Speak. Like it's a conversation starter.
It is. It really is, and it's fascinating. Like a piece of merch can save a life. It actually does. I've witnessed it. I've seen it, and I think once we eventually have it based out here, whenever that may be, I think it will just go to a whole new level. But look,
it's all gonna happen. We're speaking it into existence.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen. Thank you guys so much for listening. Thank you so much, Sam and Nadia. I'm so grateful, and I know the audience is too. Just so much value dropped. And you guys, if you guys love this episode, please screenshot your phones, tag Sam, tag Nadia, tag Coffee and a Good Vibe on Instagram. Let us know you're listening, and I want to thank you guys so much for investing time into you, and we will see you guys in the next one. Bye.